Recording and taping notification as required by the town. The town may audio or video record this meeting. Any other person who is recording the meeting through audio or video means, please inform the chair. Welcome guests. We're going to go and open the public meeting first. Can I have a motion from the board?
So moved to open the meeting.
Second.
Moved to second. We want a roll call vote, starting with Kelly, to open the public meeting.
I say aye.
Aye? Aye.
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 Okay, so at this point, the public meeting is officially opened. Welcome guests. I guess the best way to handle this is you choose who wants to come up to the microphone first and have a discussion with this board. Go ahead. Smart man, he wants to get out early.
In my business,
Understood.
it's not just the hotel business, but it happens to be the housing business. And I think the housing business is taking a lot more attention right now. But anyway, my name's Greg Winston, and I'm president and chairman of the board of Pine Oaks Village Homes. And I'm here to introduce myself, and I probably don't have to say too much more. I shouldn't maybe assume, but Pine Oaks Village Homes is, we founded our first village 1975, 74. Right now we have 163 units of affordable housing for the elderly and the handicapped, and villages 1, 2, and 3. Pine Oaks Village Homes is planning to build our fourth village off Queen Anne Road, and it's going to be mixed income. So it'll be intergenerational mixed income housing. And it's scheduled to be built in 3 phases, and we're looking for funding now. We're well into development. We'll be doing 3 phases. There'll be 88 units per phase. We're doing 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom. It's a big, big demand for the 3-bedroom. We're planning to use tax credits from the federal government and the state. However, tax credits work very well to fund in the affordable range up to 80%, but over 80%, which is what considered average median income, we need the affordable housing to help us in this range. But what we'd like to do is we'd like to make housing available to the 60 to 120% range. So right now, Pine Oaks Village Homes, we deal with more of the affordable range in our first 3 villages. This village is going to be known as Phase 4, yet to be named, but we're hoping to be able to go above and beyond the tax credits. The tax credits are more accessible, and we can do that with federal funds, and we can do that with state funds. But what we're looking for is more participation from our own communities, local communities. And given the number of units that we'll be building, and given the percentage, the dent in the required 10%, it's rather significant. Our goal is ultimately to be able to provide housing, workforce housing. And workforce housing is much harder to finance, so that's why I'm standing here in front of you tonight. We want to make housing available to the people in the 60 to 100% MI, which is workforce. And there's little funding other than, a favorable loan for $100,000 per unit for 30 units, but that's still not, it's not what we need. What we intend to do is to ask you benevolently at this point in time, as chairpersons or as custodians of the CPC funds, to help us build these units to the 60 to 100% range, which is basically what you're allowed to do. And that way we can offer families that fall within that income range housing, and that's our goal. So basically, this is something that's taken my passion and 3 of my best friends over a number of years, quite a number of years, but we've made great strides. We're hoping to get through the first round of funding with the state and the federal government, and we have to meet deadlines for October and January. So I am just here tonight to introduce you to our project, if you haven't already been introduced, and also answer any questions that you might have, if you have any.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, open it up to the board. We'll start with John.
Oh, boy. Can you remind me of, I mean, you're talking about percentages of area median income not being up on housing issues myself. I don't know what those numbers are. What is the current area median income? So what are we talking about ranges here?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not the mathematician here. I can tell you that the median income is basically 30 to 60% median income is affordable. And then when we reach above 60% to 80%, we're looking at still in the affordable range. But what we're trying to get to is above the affordable range into the range of housing for families, people who service the community, who can't afford to live in the community. So that brings us up to the 100% range. That's median income per family. And there's a mathematical equation that shows you how many people and what that median income is. I'm not a mathematician. I'm an architect and a designer, but not a mathematician.
Greg, there may be a member of the audience that has that information.
I'm just trying to, I was just seeing if I could bring it up. I mean, I can ballpark some numbers for you. I'm from the Harwich Housing Authority, so we work 80% and below, but I know that like 80%, it depends on the size of the bedrooms, first of all, and the size of the family for what that area median income is. And the 60% to, as Greg says, which is dead on, about 110% is family, like a family of four, I think is around, I'm gonna say like a family of four is like around 100,000? Or, I'm thinking of what their total, do you have it? Oh, she's got it.
And these are estimates, so
Yes, exactly.
they do change. It's fluid. They change.
Yeah, but it doesn't change, I mean, it changes yearly, so it goes by number of people. So like one person, 60% AMI is 48, 80% is 64, so 100 would be like 85, 90,000 for
That's right.
one person.
Would you please identify yourself
I'm
again
sorry,
for the
my name
audience?
is Tracy Cannon, I'm the Executive Director of the Harwich Housing Authority.
Okay, thank you.
So you're welcome. And then up to an average thing, like you said, there's a lot of demand for a 3-bedroom. And we have 3 bedrooms at the Harwich Housing Authority. So I know I can certainly speak to the incredible demand. I mean, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications every year for 3-bedroom units. And
Okay, what I need you to do is step up to the mic, so I'm going to give you your time.
Thank you. I'm not.
Thank you,
I
Tracy. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, so what we have at the Housing Authority is we're state subsidized housing, low-income housing. So we're only 80%, that's where we stop. And 80% is still relatively generous. A family of 4 can make up to $92,000 at 80% AMI. What Greg is talking about is going up to 100, 110 maybe, 120. So, yep. So that's that. Then you get into teachers and firefighters and people who make probably closer. Again, a family. I keep going back to a family of 4 because that's what we have. Our primary applications that we get are families with 2 children. That's one of the biggest applications that we get. So you're looking at, for a family of 4, you're probably looking at about $120,000 a year for the whole family. But if you're talking about a mixed income, so you're talking 60% up to 120%, you're talking about beginning at $69,000 for a family of 4, which is that's low income. And then if you're going to mix it up with up to probably 110,000. 120,000, and those are again only a family of 4. But you can kind of do the math on one single. Are you going to have 1-bedrooms too?
We're doing 1-bedrooms, 2-bedrooms, and we're concentrating on the 3
On the
bedrooms.
families.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great, that's fantastic. So anyway, and I have no dog in this fight, I'm not, I'm not even a Harwich resident, so I don't, that's just, those are just the the ballparks for what AMIs would be, so.
That's all right, that's the chair's privilege. That's why you're there.
Oh, my entire family lives here, bud.
Okay, Greg, do you have any,
Can I just say one thing?
go ahead.
The numbers were just released by the coalition for
Okay.
the housing, the limits, yes. And for the town of Harwich, it is $124,300 for the area-wide median income for a family of 4.
Okay, so that's,
Those are the 2023
so that would be
numbers.
100% if it was the AMI. So it would be, 120 would be a little bit higher than that, yeah. Yep, that sounds about right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Greg, anything else?
Sorry.
I don't have much
Okay,
questions.
Can I
all
just,
right, let me finish the go ahead, John.
so,
Elizabeth. Go ahead, John. John, you have the floor.
my other question is, what, if any, impact will your targeted areas have on Harwich's required 10% affordable housing?
We'll be almost 96%, 94% if, at the end of our 3 phases. And basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to move this aggressively forward. We've divided it into 3 phases at 88 units per phase. However, we're actually applying for the funding for all 3 phases. We have to, in the first phase, provide all of the infrastructure for the entire complex, which will, in completion, will be 264, sorry, 264 units. And it's going to be intergenerational and mixed income. So basically what we're doing is we're building a village within a village within a town. So we have to build the infrastructure in the first phase. We have to do the community building, the administration building, we have to do the septic treatment facilities, and all of the infrastructure that's involved with sidewalks, lighting, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
All set, John. Kelly?
Can you verify where this planned location is? You said Queen Anne Road?
Yes. Queen Anne Road?
Where?
It's the land south of Queen Anne, north of Maine, just before you get to the fork where the 2 meet. We've just acquired a little over 30 acres.
Great, thank you. And my other question was, so you're talking to us with the intent to apply for the next application period when the application's due in October, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yes.
That's all, no further
All
questions.
set, Kelly. Robert?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to speak.
Ah, that's right.
Kathy?
Kathy? He got me, he stumped me on that one. I wasn't going to respond, so.
Well, we certainly applaud your efforts in trying to tackle not only the affordable housing problem, but the problem with reaching different income levels, for sure. We don't have a housing representative right now, so I'm not really sure, but I'm not sure we can fund over 80% of the 80% of the median area income. I'm not sure if we can.
Supposedly CPA can do.
Just from the little bit of knowledge that I have here, I'm not sure that you can either. And I'm hoping that you can, but what we're really reaching for, and this is the reason that I'm here with you tonight, is because what we're going to have to do in order to reach the goals that we have for the workforce range, which goes from the 80 to 120% median income. In order to reach those goals, we're going to have to reach beyond not only the federal government, the state government, and every program that we know of, but certainly CPC, and not only CPC in Harwich, but CPC hopefully in Chatham, regionalized, and Dennis. This is a substantial, this is one of the largest complexes ever to be built here on the Cape, certainly on the Lower Cape. And we've actually, I have to say, I have to applaud ourselves. because we've been able to acquire the real estate that's actually quite rural and also rural to the, in respect to the fact that it's not directly in anyone's neighborhood. It's a whole section of real estate that's quite separated so that our immediate abutters aren't going to be, and we certainly have one immediate abutter who is absolutely an advocate, who works with us, you know, weekly and participates with our board. So anyway, we really are excited about it, and we just like to get it funded. But what we're going to ultimately have to do is start a foundation to obviously bring more funding in for the higher, you know, level income families that we'd like to be able to bring or allow to stay in our town. I mean, our teachers, our firefighters, our CNAs, I mean, so many people that take care of us in this community that can't afford to live in this community. And that's the reason that the affordable aspect, I mean, the workforce aspect is so important to me, to us as a team.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would deny any of that stuff. I'm just saying, I'm not sure what our levels are. Would have to be geared towards whatever those levels were that we could fund
Well,
using Community Preservation Act funding.
We'll obviously explore that from the legal point. And
And have you had the question about preferred, sort of, you know, preferential for in-town versus out-of-town?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's been our history with Pine Oaks Villages 1, 2, and 3. About 90%, a little over 90% of our residents all have an affiliation to the town of Harwich. So local preference is a priority.
Okay, because I mean, I know sometimes it's only a certain percentage. Like when Orleans came to us with their Penrose project, it was only 65% preferred. I mean, I think it's dictated somehow by,
It is somewhat dictated, and I think the percentage is almost 70. It might be, I'd like it to be higher, but it, you know, I think 70 is what we're sticking with right now.
okay.
Kelly?
I just looked up on the Community Preservation Coalition site that CPA funds can be used up to 100% AMI. And that's what I've been hearing in the housing community too.
Has that been a recent change?
Yeah, I don't know, because the trust can't do over 80%.
The trust can't do over 80, but CPA can do 100.
Have you reached out to the trust at all, Greg?
The Harwich Affordable Trust?
Yes.
Actually, we were at the forum 2 nights ago, Tuesday night. We definitely have reached out. We will be reaching out further. Yeah. We'd kind of like to build an amalgamation with the trust. We'd started with, actually, Kelly was there the other night with us at our table. Yes, we have, and we will be. We like to work together because the Affordable Trust, the Harwich Affordable Trust can help us, and we can help them with their future development. We actually gained a great deal of experience by trying to answer an RFP for the town of Brewster, for the Millstone project in Brewster. We worked on that for a good long time. And we were unfortunate at the very last minute, came up, our bid was looked as though it was going to be a little bit too high. We had some topographical issues with the real estate over there at Millstone. And we had to withdraw at the very last minute, but we gained a great deal of knowledge as a team from making that attempt. So, yes, we will be working with the Affordable Trust.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Kelly?
It was my understanding from the community forum the other night that any funds that the Housing Trust receives from CPA can be used towards 100%, while the other funds that may be restricted to 80 can only be used up to 80%. We could ask a Housing Trust person that for clarification, but that seemed to be my understanding from the room the other night.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for any other of the board members? Hearing none. Greg, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
We'll hope to see you. You're welcome. Next. Whoever's closest to the mic. Would you please identify yourself?
Hi, I'm Patty Twork, the president of the Board of Trustees at Chase Library, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am not planning a project for the future. My purpose for coming here is different. I wanted to talk about the relationship between Community Preservation Committee and the Chase Library in West Harwich. For those who are in the audience and may not know, we were formed by two philanthropic families in 1905, incorporated in 1907, and our current building was built in 1911. We are a public library, but we have no dedicated funding. We are an association library. So the Board of Trustees is grateful to the people in the town of Harwich who annually approve a warrant providing us with $10,000 to defray the costs of the operating expenses of the library. The Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners awards funds to the town library, and the Friends of Brooks Library voted many years ago to transfer a quarter of that money to the two small association libraries in Harwich. So we actually receive about $15,000 a year towards our operating expenses, which are about $22,000 and rising. So I wanted to say that when I began at Chase Library in 2007, first as a treasurer and now board president for 3 years, we've been the beneficiary of 6 community preservation grants between 2010 and the present. Because of those grants, we were able to replace a failing heat system, install storm windows, remove obsolete floor grates and outdoor quality carpeting, and have the bird's eye maple floors restored. We restored the fireplace, hearth, and box and prevented it from falling into the basement. We restored the chimney flashing and the crumbling bricks on the chimney. And we repaired, restored, and preserved the library's original front door and purchased an appropriate storm door. The cost of these projects to the Community Preservation Act and the committee who voted in favor of them amounted over these years to about $30,000. As CPC funds go, that might not be considered a great deal of money. However, I would like to point out that these funds were absolutely crucial to the Chase Library. When I took over as treasurer, we had $700 in a savings account. So in the wintertime, when the heat bills came in, I would rob Peter to pay Paul and then try to put the money back into the savings account. Over time, we sought the CPC grants and Preservation Massachusetts grants. They've helped us to do what's been necessary to preserve. We didn't have the funds to do it. So our efforts and the CPC funding have helped the Chase Library to be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. If you haven't been inside the library, I urge you to stop by and take a peek. Our interior is as lovely as the strength of our exterior. And I'll tell you that there's not one person who comes through our front door for the first time who doesn't say, "This is a magnificent door." That was the most expensive project that you funded, and yet it is the thing that people love the most. They're amazed that it is our original front door. So we try to be active and be good stewards of this gem of a building that we have. And indeed, when our roof sprung a leak in 2022, the community responded generously to our capital campaign, contributing the $20,000 necessary to complete the re-roofing and vent the roof. So my purpose for being here tonight is to convey to you that the trustees share their accomplishments with your committee. We would not be where we are without the generosity of this Community Preservation Committee. I also wanted to let you know there's a new book out. It's called Cape Cod Libraries, A History and a Guide. And if you'll permit me, I would like to just read a few things about West Harwich and the Chase Library. At a very busy intersection in the busiest route on Cape Cod, there's a roadside haven, a charming wee library where, crossing over the threshold, the traffic noises subside and visitors slide into a welcome hush. Nowadays, this library doesn't demand that you present a library card because it doesn't use them, and all the books are listed in a wonderfully old-fashioned card catalog. With its nickname, like the little library that could, and the staff's permanent invitation to come in for a cookie and a smile, it's fun to spend some time there. So thank you very much. That's my sole purpose for being here tonight, is to let you know that your good work, even though it may not seem like much to you, is so much appreciated by the nonprofits in this town. So thank you.
You're welcome. And the one thing I would like to remind you of, we're all volunteers on this board. We make the recommendations, vet the projects, but it's the taxpayers of the town of Harwich that make the final decision. So kudos to them.
Yes, always to them.
Next.
If we're going in order of proximity.
Please recognize your name.
My name is Tom Evans, and I'm president of the Harwich Conservation Trust. And I have been through that door that Patty spoke about, and I know how special the door is, but especially the library. But I'm here to offer thanks and appreciation and gratitude. I would be accompanied by Michael Locke, who is our executive director. Mike is on college visits with his daughter. So I'm here to express appreciation on 3 counts, really. The first one is general, and simply to say we deeply appreciate a Community Preservation Act with those separate buckets that are so critical to the life and vitality of any community. The second piece of gratitude is to you as a committee for the work that you do in managing these buckets. I'm a volunteer for the trust, the same way Patty is a volunteer for the library. You are volunteers, and I know how much time it takes. And we appreciate the judicious and wise judgment that you bring to a complicated task, because everybody's coming to you looking for something, and those requests are always greater than your capacity to help out. But thirdly and specifically, you have been partners to the Harwich Conservation Trust in many projects over the years. And to the extent that what we do, preserving land, preserving water, preserving access, preserving trails for the enjoyment of our residents and our visitors alike, you're really accomplishing something that's terribly important, or helping us to accomplish something that's terribly important for the town. So simply, thank you. We appreciate that help a great deal. As Patty has said about the library, it's really important work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody from the board want to make a comment? Okay, moving on. Next.
Good evening. I'm Amy Usowski. I'm the Conservation Administrator for the town. I'm lucky to have been here for about 12 years now. So thank you for the invitation to come here today. I don't have anything prepared, so this is probably going to be less than eloquent. But I too wanted to thank you for your support for the Conservation Department and our natural resources of the town over the years. We would manage and maintain some of our lands as well without some of the funding, especially the past few years when other budgets have been cut. So extremely appreciative for that. I've had the privilege of working pretty closely with the Real Estate and Open Space Committee, the Harwich Conservation Trust, and I feel like the town of Harwich does an exceptional job at preserving key pieces of land strategically. One thing that I've been thinking about the past few days as leading up to this meeting was, and this is where my wheels have been turning, and I want other people's wheels to be turning, and hopefully and yours. I'm not sure how this could fit into CPC, and I would like for it to, is, I mean, why do people come to the Cape? They come to the Cape for our water, for our natural resources. And we're sewering, which is fantastic, but water quality is still really something that's very threatened here in the whole Cape and not just the town of Harwich. Fresh water, we've had algal blooms. We've been able to Band-Aid those by treating some of our ponds with alum, and long-term, hopefully, sewers will greatly help with that too. But I'm just trying to think of what actions that CPC could assist with dealing with water quality issues that we have in town, as well as resiliency for climate change adaptations. I know that, like, on conservation properties, for instance, if we have impediments on the properties, dikes, culverts, and that property was purchased with CPC funds, we might be able to remove those and restore things because the land was purchased with CPC funds, and in that way we increase flushing and improve water quality. But looking at it as a big picture, and again, I'm just not as familiar with the ways CPA funds can be used as you are. So a need that I see, and that's how I kind of understood this invitation to come here, was to look at, community needs. How could CPA funds potentially be used to look at resiliency issues as we deal with climate change, and also water quality improvements? So.
Well, part of your question is, this board has voted monies for the use of treating particular ponds
That I'm
in the
yes.
area.
Yep.
So that's part of the water quality issue. If you're discerning drinking water from regular water, I couldn't answer that question. That's out of my
Yeah,
daily
it's
work.
just something that I've had in my mind. We're doing a lot of public education right now about what private property owners can be doing to improve things on their property. We have a little task force between health department, golf, and water, and myself to look. My part is to try to educate people on alternatives to lawns, to plantings, things like that, that are more native and drought tolerant. And then there's a whole fertilizer education program. But I'm curious as if there could be, can CPA funds be used in any way to do public outreach and education for things like natural resource protection?
That's a good question. Any thoughts from any of the board members on that? Kelly?
I have a couple thoughts. So I guess on the education side, if we're funding affordable housing education, why can't we also be funding natural resource education? So I'm just throwing that out there. My other thought, I think in line with Amy, is the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, for example, did some like green infrastructure for stormwater treatment in town of Barnstable. So I'm guessing that would be kind of a project that, compared to doing alum treatment in a pond, that's very obviously benefiting that pond. This may be multiple different sites, but it could be like I think that was a town DPW project. So does that seem in line as one of the potential things?
Right, so an idea I had when we had those torrential downpours this week is our stormwater system cannot accommodate that much water that we had in that one period. And we're designing for the 25-year storm event, which happens all the time. All that overflow, it goes somewhere. So APCC and other organizations are helping do these rain gardens, retention areas, will help purify the water before, right now in a lot of places, it will go straight into your pond. So helping fund things like that. We're working with APCC actually and Blue Flax Design are putting in 2 exhibition type gardens here in Harwich actually this week. they started doing that, but that was through funding through APCC, not through the town. But I just wanted to mention it to start getting wheels spinning about the possibility for more of a, instead of, property-specific approach, which is what I typically do when I ask for CPC funding, we look more at specific properties. Are there more town-wide type efforts that we can be doing? Educational purposes, stormwater. I'm just not quite 100% sure about how CPC, would fit into that, but I'll look farther as well. But I just wanted to bring it up for the public.
Kathy?
Yeah, well, we have funded monitoring, right? We've funded inventories. So we do things other than just what the box is, which is conservation, preservation,
Yeah.
restoration, whatever. I think we could probably do a little research on the coalition's website and see if we can find anything that's been done that's of similar nature. That would give us a starting,
That'll be helpful.
John? Thank you, Kathy.
Well, along those lines, one of my concerns about ponds in Harwich specifically is that we don't understand them well enough. And we don't have enough consistently accumulated data about the ponds, and the data we have has not really been utilized in any meaningful way to attempt to draw any conclusions about what is happening in the ponds. I mean, we know anecdotally that we're getting algae blooms in some places. We know anecdotally that nutrient levels are up, the water isn't clear. But what does that really mean, and which ponds are the most threatened? And so, and again, I think the question about CPC funding for this sort of thing is out there. It's something for us to discuss, but funding some kind of uniform program in conjunction with what the Cape Cod Commission is doing right now. They have a program for doing this that's funded for 3 years for 50 ponds on Cape Cod or in Harwich. On the other hand, the PALS program, I don't know how many ponds in Harwich the PALS program has been collecting data on, but it's more than 4. It's a good deal more than 4. I would like to see an effort to glom on to the Cape Cod Commission program using their QAP, which is a industry-specific acronym for something like Quality Assurance Protocol Program or Program Protocol or something. It's basically making sure that when data is taken, it's taken in a very consistent way and a uniform way, so when it's taken in one pond on one day and another pond on some other day, it all can be considered to be valid and you can compare them. I would love to see a bigger effort in Harwich to collect data over a number of years on a larger collection of Harwich ponds and put money towards assessing what that data means.
All set, John?
I'm done. Thank you.
Anybody else, any other board members have any questions? Amy, quite frankly, years ago, maybe 15 years ago, there was a point where the CPC wasn't allowed to handle water, or monies weren't allowed to be used towards water. That all evaporated.
Right.
When one of the.
no pun intended.
No pun intended. When one of the major cities in the Boston area built a man-made lake. Once that happened, then the access to the money for water was there. What you're describing and what John's describing is way beyond anything that I understand CPC has ever developed. So there's a lot of research that you have to do there. Bring it forward.
Just wanted to, just my wheels were turning. So
You
I
know,
figured
and that's why we're here.
I would share.
Kelly?
Oh, I feel like I should make a supportive comment. What Amy is commenting on keeps me up at night as well, so.
Yes.
Thank you,
All
Amy.
right, thanks.
Thank you, Kelly. Next.
Sorry. I just took a little longer. Hi, I'm Ginny Hewitt. I'm the library director and a 24-year resident of the town. I want to say Brooks Free Library has benefited from a number of CPC projects in the historic preservation area in the past. The largest was the $772,000 exterior preservation project that was finished in January 2019. And we also have had a lot of smaller projects digitizing historic newspapers and preserving the originals. And since I was coming today, I wanted to look and see, you know, it's almost the end of the fiscal year, so I thought, let me see how much these historic newspapers have been used. Just so you know, there are four. One was Cape Cod Republican, is 1862 to 1864, that the Cape Cod 5 digitized with the Historical Society before we started applying. And so there were three that you paid for. Harwich Independent, 1872 to 1949, Central Cape Press, 1949 to 1958, and the Harwich Oracle, 1986 to 2005. So that really covers a whole long from like 1862 to 2005. And then for some reason, we must have had it on our rolls of microfilm when they were digitizing, because we also have 15 years of the Orleans Record from 1902 to 1917. But anyway, so they're all older, you know, papers, more for historical research. So our current like databases of articles from the Cape Cod Times or the Cape Cod Chronicle, those get probably, I don't know, say 60 to 80,000 views a year. That's what you would expect. But when I looked at this, so last year we got, or this current year, these newspapers were accessed and used for research almost 3,000 times, which I thought was really good. But what really surprised me was giving the stats, it goes by day. 345 days this past year, someone accessed those newspapers. And that's a lot. Like, that shocked me, because I thought one person doing research could account for, you know, 50 of those, like, you know, blocks of times of people accessing documents. But I thought 345 days out of 365 is pretty good. Like, that's a daily use of that resource, and I didn't expect that. So I just thought I'd mention that. We're not planning any historic preservation projects in the immediate future. I do think it's very important, this whole category of historic preservation, and because it's something there's not a lot of other funding for, and it's done right, it's very expensive. And so without this source of funding, even municipalities, like we're in the historic preservation field, municipalities, like, you're considered the deep pockets. That's why it's harder to get other funding, like from other state grants, because, you know, they're trying to give it to nonprofits and places that have no other recourse. When there's a municipality owns it, they're expected to maintain it. However, it's too expensive, and without this funding, the property owners, whether it's the municipality or a private association, they're going to cut corners, they're going to put Band-Aids on something, they're not going to do it the right historic preservation way. And so that's why I think it's so important, and I just want to advocate for that. I know, you know, when individual projects comes up, it seems so expensive, but I just want to let you know that that's why, and I think this is the perfect reason why this is in one of the categories that you can fund, because it wouldn't be done right otherwise, and we wouldn't be taking care of our heritage. And as Patty said, like, Chase Library has benefited from that, and it made a huge difference for the library. Like, so nice not to see that peeling paint. If you remember how bad it looked before, it was not good. Anyway, so I wanted to say historic preservation, I hope you fund those projects. And I really think, like, the facilities things are so important. Sometimes there are other nicer to have things, I would say, that, like, whether it's digitizing things, and they are our heritage, but the facilities projects are just so expensive, and I think that should be a focus. But speaking as a resident, I want to say, I think the main priority for CPC funds really has to be affordable housing. It's been an issue for decades, and you all know how the pandemic and housing trends and costs have problem in recent years. We're at a crisis situation, and to me, the other categories, while they're all important, in this, when you look at, compared to affordable housing, I would say the other areas are all nice to have things. If affordable housing is critical, if we don't change this trajectory, then we're not going to have a year-round community, and there's nobody going to be here to enjoy the historic assets, the open space, or the new pickleball court. And so I'd urge you to dedicate as much support as possible from affordable housing, more than out of your undesignated funds. And so that's all I came to say, really. But now Amy has me thinking, because as part of historic preservation, I've been involved in COSTEP. It's a group statewide that looks to bring historic preservation resources together with emergency planners and, first responders about all kinds of historic preservation and climate change. And so I've attended some climate change conferences with them. And one of the things that was very interesting to me was that Historic New England, which is, I didn't know that much about, I heard it's an organization that owns a lot of historic properties across New England. And what I remember out of their presentation talking about climate change, with climate change, you're going to have a lot more weather extremes. So you get the droughts, and everyone says, the warm weather, but then you also get more severe storms. And so the rain, like the gutters on the historic properties, you get the historic wooden gutters, which are smaller, can't handle that volume, and like standards have to change. And either whether it's other materials and bigger than gutters have historically been. This is just one small example. I just think it's something that we need to look into more, because otherwise you're not prepared, you're not going to preserve the historic structure. So what's the bigger goal? I just think there's a lot that can be done there, and I get that. It seems to me, from my knowledge of CPC, that there's you get the Community Preservation Coalition. It almost seems like until someone questions it and DOR has a ruling, then there's not really guidance on where it goes. And so, like you were saying, David, how interpretation of what it can be used for changes over time, and maybe that's where some advocacy is needed. And if at least we were presenting something, then maybe they would consider. Maybe it should be a whole other category. I don't know, but even within existing categories, you all know more about this because you're all experts in one of these fields, and that's why you're on this committee. But that's something you could decide, that you're going to start requiring applicants or asking applicants, how have you looked at like weather impacts and resiliency and things like that, when they are presenting their projects. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Jenny, I can tell you this. Any discussions you have with DOR are in absolute terms. You may be able to deal with the legislature, but DOR has their guidelines, and that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Point done. I'd like to tap into your wealth of knowledge for a moment.
Okay.
Go take a little stray for a moment. I was talking with Bob at one point, and maybe you know this and maybe you don't. Well, what I know as the campgrounds in Howardsport, there was a printing press or a newspaper run out of one of those buildings. Do you know which one it was, or?
I don't, and that brings up a point, because when I was talking about the digitizing the historic newspapers, that's so important because so much of local history is not written down, especially for a small town like Harwich. And so whatever, when those projects come forward, that's why it's important. No, I don't know, and I don't think there's any, some of the books that we have on Harwich history, I would say are not, I don't know how to say this diplomatically, someone's impression of what happened, whether this was really happened there or not, it's relaying community information, lore, and not, and where are the facts on that? I don't know. The Historical Society would have more information, I would think, and Joan Maloney was doing a lot of research for, like, I know she talked a lot about, was it the Overall Factory? Do you know about that? Maybe interviews also that they have. Yeah, there were a lot of that. So anyway, that's a whole other area. No, I don't know that.
Just thought I'd ask.
And I don't think there's anything like in our collection that would show that either. You know, the Historical Society had, in fact, I think they got CPC funding to digitize a lot of their photographs. But I think that also relies on volunteers who are inputting information into a database on what it shows and whether that was really, I don't know. I would think it'd be more likely to be something that'd be a photograph of a, you know, where someone noted this is a house where this was, or something like that, so otherwise I.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot, I just had the opportunity to ask the question. Amy?
And I would say we would take that I would take that as a reference question, go back and ask, but I don't think we can find any answer to that, because I don't think that kind of information exists. Because I think I've heard you talk about it at the previous meeting. Usually I'm watching at home and I'm like writing notes. Hey, do we have this? But I just don't think it exists.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
I just texted a historian I know in the town to see if they're aware, so I'll let the board know.
Now you're really.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it, folks. Next, please.
Thank you. I'm Beth Wade. I'm the Director of Land Acquisition and Project Development for Habitat for Humanity, and I'm not coming forward tonight with a particular project in mind, but again, want to thank you for our recently completed the homes at Murray Lane. And after a bit of a delay, through no fault of any of the new owners, we are due to close on the very last home this week. So everyone will own their home after this week. They've been in, some have been in under use and occupancy agreements with Habitat, while USDA continued to process their applications. But that is completed, and we're very excited, and we thank you. Habitat has does niche development in affordable housing. We are probably one of the only, if not the only, developers of ownership units, and so we really appreciate your commitment in the past, and we hope in the future, to that particular niche within affordable housing. We're not building huge developments, but we're providing some diversity within the affordable housing units in the ownership process. So I really do thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again at some point soon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say, the documentation you folks provide for your projects is absolutely outstanding.
Thank you.
If you could reduce it from 2 inches to 1 inch,
Can do.
thank you.
Happy
Members
to
of the
do
board,
it.
any questions? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Next? Oh, we're all set then. Okay. We're going to close the hearing. Can I have,
I thought I was gonna get called.
no, go ahead.
Did you guys get, this is the,
She wants to do
Boy, yeah,
first.
the rental assistance?
we got to close the meeting first.
Yes.
We have to close the
Oh,
public
okay.
hearing
That's-
first,
That's what I thought, okay.
and then we'll call.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I'm just gonna stay.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Voice vote, please. Kelly?
Aye.
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 Okay, the public hearing is closed. Now we're opening up the regular session of the CPC. Before we go any further, there's some information I would like to provide to the board. This is for refers to one of the board members, Kelly Barber. Barnstable Land Trust is proud to share Kelly Barber, BLT's Director of Land Stewardship, has been named to the finalist in the Young Professional category as part of the Massachusetts Nonprofit Network for 2023 Nonprofit Excellence Award. Kelly is one of 2 finalists representing the Cape and Islands, and the only one from the environmental field. She has been recognized on June 6th at the Massachusetts State House, past tense. Please see the attached, okay, and this is from the Director of Communication and Programming, Barnstable Land Trust. So I'd like to acknowledge, well done. Okay, moving on with the agenda. Approval of the meeting minutes from May 11th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, new business. Products, Tracy Cannon. Here we go. Harwich Housing Authority. Tracy, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself for the,
I'm Tracy Cannon, I'm the Executive Director of the Harwich Housing Authority. Does everybody have, I sent them, did anybody get the printouts? Okay, no one needs one? I have extras if they do. Okay, this is just the every 6 months report that I give regarding our rental assistance program. We have, I believe, today, we signed on a new gentleman who is not on this list. So we're, I did this a few weeks ago because I thought that I was on the last month's agenda. So we're currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 families that we're helping. We do get, as I said before, slowly but surely, people kind of trickle in, you know, anybody that can find housing, but can't quite afford, you know, the income or the rent, or has come, you know, is living somewhere and their rent has gone up, but their income hasn't gone up enough to cover it. So we're just plugging along. I don't know if anybody had any questions regarding the numbers or anything. It's, as I say, we're just, you know, we take in, you know, probably, we get probably a dozen calls a week asking about the program, and then we take in a couple of applications, and then depending on whether they're eligible or not. We did get a flurry of them from Lake Street recently, but sadly they weren't eligible because they didn't. They were either over the 80% AMI, or they needed help, but we won't go lower than $100 a month for you know, out of the gate. So they only needed a tiny bit of help. They just, you know, most of them just didn't fall into the parameters. So anyway, so yeah, so those are the numbers, and I don't know if anybody's got any questions about them.
okay, we'll open it up to the board. Robert?
Yeah, no questions.
John?
No questions.
Kathy?
Can I just take a look that quick? I know I had it, but I think one of our questions when we discussed this was what was carried over from the prior funding. We had funded once before, there was a carryover, and
So-
then we funded it again.
Right, correct, yeah. I believe it was the 15,000, that 15,118. So when we get to the point, we come back and ask for more. When we get to the point where we don't have enough funding to fund more than a family or two, you know, that's when it drops down. So that would be, the 15,000 would be what was in the account at the time that we got the most recent chunk from you guys. So, is that the question?
Are you going into the third year of this particular funding cycle?
We're in the third year right now.
Third year.
Yep,
So
correct.
you've used half the money.
Correct, yep.
You're going into the
And that's
third year.
it's a little slower than it's been in the past. I think the last time we did it, we used it up in 5 years. So this year, we're on track to have it be 6 years. Again, we may have, I mean, if Greg's thing were to go through, that's a lot of units, and I'm sure some people could use some, you know, the more units we get, the more rentals that are out there. That's the problem that we've had this go-around, is there just haven't been the rentals.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping that there will be more rentals, and that maybe for the people who are starting out, that might need help at the beginning, that we
I
can,
think
you
one
know.
of the things that you said the last time you were here, maybe a year ago,
Mhm.
was that, you know, well, COVID was one thing, and there was
Yeah.
a lot of funding that was available during COVID that sort of
Exactly,
meant
yep,
that the
yep.
need wasn't there for your program. And then we discussed how could we sort of, build up more interest or get the word out there.
Right, yeah.
So the numbers haven't really increased that much.
Right.
Um,
I think too, the other thing that we run into is, and I know from being in the Housing Authority, from my role in the Chatham and Harwich Housing Authorities, is there is a lot of call for intermittent help. A lot of people they fall on, especially the families have, issues with expenses that come up that they aren't prepared for. Certainly a lot of them don't have big savings accounts they can draw off of, or credit cards they can, obviously you discourage that anyway. But so I've had a lot of calls for people calling me saying, does anybody there do any kind of, intermittent fund, help? Or my tenants themselves will come to me and say, I need help. And so I send them to Hetch or to Homeless Prevention, and, we work very closely with all those guys. I have found that the need for that kind of funding has definitely increased. And as opposed to this sort of ongoing, just intermittent, the consistent help over the course of a couple of
And
years.
another thing I remember you mentioning was that, or someone mentioned when we discussed this, was that the rents themselves sort of had gotten so high that they didn't qualify or something.
Well, sometimes, if the rents are very unreasonable, we follow the state guidelines, which is the Massachusetts has maximum, the MRVPs and they have maximum rental, and even HUD for that matter, the Section 8, they have maximum rents. They've gone up, they've been very generous, and they've gone up, and they're much more reasonable now than they used to be, but they're still, people can just charge whatever they want. And so if someone comes to us and asks for help because a two-bedroom apartment has gone up to $3,500, I mean, that, if we're working within the guidelines of the state, we just can't.
But you guys have your own guidelines, right?
We do, but for the most part, we follow the MRVP guide. I mean, we follow mostly the state. I'm not sure if was in the actual original protocols when they very first started this. That was before me. But I know that since I began, we've always followed the same guidelines. We've used the same income limits. We've used the same rental maximums. We've used all that, all that stuff. And also, I would add, the MRVP this year, they have just decided to let the agencies that are administering the state vouchers, the MRVP is the Massachusetts Rental Voucher Program, which is the state version of Section 8. It's similar. We do similar calculations to determine what is an affordable rent for somebody. And so, but the MRVP has allowed us to use our discretion and to go up a little bit. We just won't do it with the really, really egregious ones. So, yeah. Yep.
One second.
Yep.
Kelly?
I was curious if you were, since you're in your third year, if you're interested in submitting a project this year
For continued,
for continuing this, or even looking for, because you said that the kind of intermittent funding is a need. If
we haven't talked,
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, we haven't discussed it. As I say, we work pretty closely with, there's been funding out there. Finding it, is just it's a labyrinth, and so what we do is to put the people into the hands of the various agencies that either have the funding themselves or that know how. Homeless Prevention and Hetch are both really great. They know like all the different places that offer these and they're moving targets. Money comes in, money goes out, they get the money, and then the money's gone, and then the next place gets the money, and then the money's gone. So it's been our role thus far simply just to sort of navigate, put people in the right direction and get them to the right people depending on where they live and what their incomes are. But no, we don't have any in the works yet.
Okay. I had another
Yet.
question. Yeah. Another question about, so you said that HUD has their standards. Is that an average across the state, or is it? based
So
on
HUD
the
is
county?
the federal version, and then we're then I'm the state. I work exclusively. I don't have any federal stuff at all. I only have state stuff. And most of Massachusetts guidelines, as I say, the AMIs and the rental limits and all that stuff, they're all almost identical to HUD. I mean, they take a lot of their numbers from HUD. So, and it's all across the state. I mean, the different counties obviously have different numbers depending on what the area median incomes are in the various counties, but, like most of the Cape is all the same. Everybody's all the same.
Yeah, so I guess my question was if you, like if HUD is limiting how much you can give someone with, based off of their rent standard, is there any way to make it based off of like the county average or? anything like that?
Well, we don't, yeah, I mean, as I say, we always use the state, whatever the state guidelines are. What an affordable rent is considered is usually 30% of somebody's income. It's pretty straightforward. We take the gross income and then we deduct any out-of-pocket medical and any childcare stuff. So that's all state set. And I mean, if going forward, when we, I would think maybe if we were to ask again for more money for this program, we would definitely change some of the things, because everything's changed here. You know, everything is so different than it was when this program originally began. So we would look more closely at it the closer we get to exhausting these funds. I think we would try to tweak it and see if we could speak to the other local town, the other towns in the area, see what's been working for them, there are towns that have very similar programs to this. I think we could kind of brainstorm and get feedback from them and go forward with whatever changes make the most sense, so that the most people get helped.
Great, thank you. All set.
This is a layperson's question.
Sure, please.
Your funding, the majority of your funding comes from the state?
All of my funding at the Housing Authority comes from the state, correct?
Does
Exclusively.
Barnstable County provide any funding for you?
We are 100%, well, we used to be DHCD, but they just changed the name. I'm not sure. Elizabeth? EOHLC.
I'm sorry to put you
The
on.
Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. Yes. Yes, that's what it is.
The acronym. So,
Yeah, so that's what the Housing Authority is exclusively state funded. A lot of housing authorities have federal programs as well, but we do not.
any for-profit organizations, can you take grants from?
Not the Housing Authority. I don't believe we can take any you mean like a private trust of some sort?
Yeah.
I mean, we could help administer the disbursement. I mean, we could help, like we do with this. We could, we take town funds in, and then we are basically hired by the town to, we pay, it's 2%, whatever it is, but we, the town, we administer it for the town. So I guess we could, if there was grant money, if they had money that was not attached to the state at all, we could put in a bid to do what, depending on the money, to disperse it however they wanted it dispersed. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're talking about from a program standpoint. Like, are you talking about what Kelly was talking about with individual one-time payments, or, I guess it just depends on what you're looking for.
Oh, Jim, well,
Maybe I don't really understand the question.
You got some money?
Yeah, you got some money somewhere? So we can do anything, as far as helping anybody in the town, any groups in the town. or
so
any
if a
programs.
philanthropic individual came to you, you could help them develop a means to disperse a certain amount of money in a particular area. That's what you do.
We could, I don't know that that's, I would say, to be very frank with you,
Is it controlled by DOR or the legislature?
No, I mean, not if they come to us. If no state money touches it, then no, we can do whatever we want.
Okay,
I guess that's the bottom line, that's what you're looking for.
that I understand.
It's all about private money versus any money that comes, even money from you guys, you know, if at some point it touches the state, then we've got to go by the state guidelines, we just don't have any choice. So if there's a private trust and it's not, you know, there's no money at all from the state, we can do whatever we want. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Robert?
Oh, on the individual, like the one-time request, do you refer them up to the Council on Aging at all?
For what, I'm sorry, Bob.
You said you have people that need a one-time payment.
Oh, yes, yep.
Car broken down or
Yep.
something.
So-
Do you send them up there too?
So what we do is I send them primarily, to be honest with you, up to the Homeless Prevention Council in Orleans, because they know all the councils on aging. They know, or they work with all the councils on aging. They know which councils on aging have funding. They also work that anybody might need. If they need help with Mass Health, they need help with SNAP benefits, they need help with fuel assistance. They know how to, you know, who to go to, where all those resources are. And then, and so then they, you know, and the Council on Aging obviously has multiple resources for, so, and Homeless Prevention handles.
Well, the point was
Yeah.
that they manage the Caleb Trust money, which isn't just for elderly.
Right.
But it's exactly those one-time things.
Right.
That if you refer them right up to there.
Yep.
And they need a car payment or something.
Sure.
They can usually handle that.
And that's families as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It
okay.
has nothing to do, they just happen to be capable of administrating it. So
Right.
they administrate it for the town.
Great.
But that's an
I did,
example
I
that's not-
personally didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. So
And
that
I'm
is-
wondering if they do, I'm sure they probably do, but I can certainly double check to make sure. And I can also, as you say, refer them straight up there. And those are, that's exclusively for Harwich residents?
That's Howard,
Okay,
yeah,
great,
yeah.
great.
And typically, you know, it's usually for unseen expenses. that
Exactly, yeah.
just can't
And
come.
those are
And it's
just,
up to $1,000.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Great information.
Thank you, I didn't know about
Thank
that,
you.
that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from any of the board members? Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you guys very much, thank you.
Okay, next, discussion of the grant agreements. To the board, any questions? I'm sure you all got the memos in the emails. Any questions? Hearing none, moving on. Well, come on, I mean,
Whoa.
it's like,
I think that the grant agreement between CPC and the Affordable Housing Trust needs to be vetted out more. We need more than what they want to give us here.
right, and I don't disagree with that. In fact, Jan has provided the chair with some documentation on the previous, what the state previously had done, requested. I haven't had an opportunity to go through that information, but would you pass that, or have you sent that out in email at all?
I can send all of that
Yeah,
to the committee.
please.
There's just a few of them. Email.
But given that, can I just continue for a second?
You've got the floor.
Just given that the monies that go from the funding that we provide, or that the town provides, typically, there's an accountability kind of thing. But the monies that we give to the trust, or the taxpayers vote to give to the trust, it just goes. It's not gonna come back, it's not spent, and there's like no real accountability, and I think we need something so that we have an idea of what's going on for future appropriations.
So essentially what you're saying is the lump sum goes directly to the trust, and then the CPC has no ability to withdraw that money. It's gone to the trust, period. And I haven't had a chance to talk to the chair of the trust yet. I wanted this information first as background. With the rest of the articles, and you have the listing that was sent out to you, the town administrator and I sat down, had a long discussion about it. They involved legal, and the request from the chair was the way that they were proposing it was a lot different than what the CPC wanted. And I wanted documentation. This board needed documentation of, even though it's in-house, and they're all projects within the town of Howard, we still needed to have someone that was going to be identified as the project manager and ownership of the particular project, whatever that project may be. So that's what the Board of Selectmen, that's what the town administrator committed to, went to the Board of Selectmen. They voted it as you see here. So that pretty much covers all the town portion of the applications, except for the trust. Now, it's been a while since I've gone back and done research on the trust, but at one point, the state legislature made a change where there must have been some issues, or whatever they were, that the documentation had to be that there had to be a grant agreement between the CPC and any trust that was out there. So, unless I'm completely cold on what I read, I need to get that information's here, so we're gonna go forward with it. I'm gonna make a request. The town administrator's on vacation right now. He's not gonna be back for a couple of weeks. So when he comes back, we'll sit down and I'll have that discussion with him. In the meantime, I'll have a discussion with the chair of the trust. So,
And then with regard to any outside of the town organizations that have received funding,
they
are they
voted-
going to?
they've already voted, the select board has already voted the grant agreements.
What do you mean? So that, like, for example, HCT, have they signed a grant agreement and it's already been voted on by the Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, because I
Three-
mean.
three or four? Three.
Three outside entities.
Okay. And what you sent to us, is this what they used? This,
Standard.
standard conditions?
Yes.
Because, I mean, we don't really do this, though, some of it. And that's a problem. I mean, don't you think we have somebody sign something and it says the project has to commence within 6 months from the first day of the fiscal year following the town meeting vote? We don't do that.
But we do now.
Okay. For the outside and it's not for the inside.
Not for the inside.
I think that's, I don't know, preferential treatment to a certain
To the
extent.
town of Howard.
The town of Harwich.
Well, it is the taxpayer money of the town of Howard.
Yes, I guess my question is who's going to enforce the grant standards,
With who? The town of Howard or
No.
the external
the
entities?
external entities, since we don't have any control over the other?
I wouldn't quite say we don't have any control over the other. We have to
Well-
agree to the terms of the conditions.
Okay. Okay, how about the outside? Are we going to, who's gonna monitor the standard conditions agreement?
You are.
Right.
John?
Yeah, I have some similar, call them confusions, not that, I'm confused, I'm not accusing you of being confused.
That's okay, that's all right.
I mean, I did have the question about, oh, this 6-month thing, it sounds like sounds good on paper, but we know that that frequently doesn't work out in real life. And, but in the end, somebody's signing this agreement, and then if, for whatever extenuating circumstances, and usually there are, when it happens, and we hear why, it's like, oh yeah, well, you clearly couldn't do anything about that. And so, is that putting us in a position, like we just
No,
have to take?
John, the Judah Eldridge property
Oh,
has gone on forever.
right,
And we have the ability, the CPC board has the ability that after 3 years, we can draw the applicants back, have a discussion with them, decide whether we're gonna go forward or not with the particular projects. That one has gone on and on and on. The board has not put up any resistance to it. And now it's at its fruition now. They're actually taking action on it now, something that Kathy wanted from day one. So, she's rolling her eyes.
yes.
So again, we have the ability to adjust. It doesn't have, is it on paper and is it a hard count? Absolutely. Can it be adjusted? Absolutely. Who does it? Not the administration, not the applicants, this board does.
Okay, so on to a few other questions.
Go. For Kathy?
Well, one of them maybe is for Kathy, which is, I mean, you're talking about the housing trust and holding the housing trust to something, right? And so my question is, haven't we always had the language anyway here, which is reports every 6 months? And it's the lack of compliance that has been the issue, not the language in any agreement we had with them. We made it very clear that that's what we expected, and those were conditions of the grant. So are you talking about something beyond that you're
I'm
expecting?
talking about
She
an
wants to-
agreement similar to like this with the trust.
Right,
That our coalition strongly recommends with housing trusts, that there be a
Right.
standard agreement that
So-
has more, meat and bones to it
and this?
than this.
Oh,
In lieu of,
okay,
Okay,
so that
This
just.
is,
I just have to
we
look.
got a person who's in charge, this is the amount, this is the purpose, and trust us, it's gonna get done. That's what this is.
Right.
This is different.
and the other thing is the trust is not part of the town of Harwich administration. It's separate. It's a separate
Yeah.
entity.
Right, I get that, I guess. And I don't have the second thing in front of me, I have to open it, but, yeah, I've got it here. I forget what that says. I
Well,
mean,
the trust isn't part of either of these docs that Joe sent.
Right.
It's not mentioned, John.
so
I
the
mean, this-
trust isn't on here.
Right.
It is,
So- Where is it?
right here. Support, 500,000, support housing trust.
Support Housing Trust, yeah,
That's it.
it is on there.
I mean, this,
Article 25,
yeah,
yep.
this
Oh,
clearly
You're right,
says,
Kath.
Apologize.
Kathy, you're right.
this memorandum serves as an acknowledgement on behalf of the following departments listed below of their obligations relative to receiving grants of funds from town meeting via CPA funds. This acknowledgement is in lieu of any grant agreements between the town and the various town departments. So this is it,
So this does not enumerate any of the responsibilities, that's the problem here.
No, and that's what we're going to address.
Yeah, okay. And how is it you're thinking we're going to address by drafting a corollary document?
Let the town administrator come back, and there will be a discussion,
Okay, all right.
along with the chairman of the trust.
Okay.
I think we should have,
I agree, I'm not
No, I-
disagreeing.
no, I know,
What I'm
it's-
trying to tell John is,
Right.
it's gonna take place.
right. and I'm-
Okay, so,
Yeah.
that's fine for me, just having you repeat these things a couple times, it finally penetrates my thick skull. So, I appreciate that, because I was confused about those things, about what this really means, and I agree with that. I think there has to be something in writing, and if we have to do that in order to proceed in the future, and hopefully that's well and widely understood.
It absolutely will be. Anything else from the board?
Yeah.
Robert,
Just on the standard one for.
on the
outside,
boilerplate, yes.
I take it that can be negotiated if there are different circumstances at the time when it's awarded?
Right.
Okay.
No, you, Kelly?
I have two questions. One's with the grant agreement. So there's the statement about Community Preservation Act awareness as item 16, and it talks about putting up a permanent sign, and we've had lots of discussions with no consensus on permanent signs. Should there be language in there saying that a sign needs to be approved by us or by our standard or anything like that? I feel like that's getting in the weeds, but I have to ask.
Any board member want to answer that?
I mean,
Go ahead,
it
Robert.
does say, and it says that it's mutually accepted by all the parties. So I think
Okay.
you're kind of covered there. They can't just do anything.
Kelly, you have the floor.
At a location mutually accepted,
Oh, but not the sign
not the
itself.
sign itself.
Yeah, it's true.
Anything else?
I had something else, but it has escaped me. I think I'm in agreement on I am in agreement that we need a signed agreement with the trust. Oh, I have my question. When is this discussion happening with the chair and the town administrator? Is that gonna be with our board or?
When you deal with everything is a negotiation in this town to get things accomplished. So, we have found some things that we want to take care of in this memorandum of agreement, however you want to define it. So, that's going to be done.
Is that by you or?
That's
or are they
going to be by
coming
the
here?
chair, yes.
Okay. All set.
Boy, you were so quiet when you started. You're really part of the group now.
And that's a good thing. Kathy?
Yeah, so, since this has already been signed off on by the Board of Selectmen, are we gonna have any, leeway dealing with the trust and getting to sign something different?
Of course we will.
Well, this is already, I mean, we'll see.
We rescind votes all the time in this board,
All right. Oh, okay.
and especially when it's,
Okay. This sort of precludes any signage for any of these projects, because it's not being written into any kind of an agreement. And we may want to tack that onto something. And I do think that if we do some research and come up with some recommended, look at some of the grant agreements that the coalition recommends, or that some of the other towns use with the trust, we would have something that we could present to the chairman of the current trust and the town administrator with regards to shaping up a different agreement.
John?
So, can this be dealt with in as simple a manner as adding a sentence or requesting that Joe revise the memo that we have here to say that all the department heads acknowledge that they are complying with all the elements of the standard agreement?
They didn't want that.
Would we want that?
No, they didn't want that.
They didn't want an agreement, but they also don't want to actually comply with these elements? There are things in here that they think they should not be held to?
I don't think it's that, I just think they don't want to sign an agreement.
But I'm not suggesting they sign an agreement. I'm suggesting, well, that they send a memo with Joe's initials on it that say that they're complying with all those elements. Is that the same as signing an agreement? I don't know. But it's like, I mean, the way it is, if we challenge them on anything that we're unsatisfied with because we think they should be doing it and they're not doing it, we sort of have nothing in writing, you know, no legs to stand on in writing.
Well, the opposite of that's true too. So we have a grant agreement, and they don't abide by the grant agreement, so the town, the CPA is gonna, or CPC is gonna turn around and sue the town?
Well, no, but we're gonna refuse to fund things in the future. I mean, that's,
You'll have, no, it's not gonna work that way.
well, it
You'll be in
doesn't.
front of a judge if you do that.
Well, wait a minute.
That's what I
no,
mean
I
by-
think you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is, it gets too far into the weeds. They already had a legal opinion of a grant agreement. They didn't want to do that. They were requested not to. Well, they decided not to. So, we want to have a different agreement? That's fine. We're going to pay for the legalese for everything that's involved in that. So, that's one direction. The other direction is to make a public statement saying that we're not going to fund them because they're not doing a particular thing, that blows everything out of the water right there.
I just made that statement publicly, and so maybe that's a problem. However, when we consider proposals, any proposal from anybody,
They're a competitive application. So we base our arguments on a competitive application. If it doesn't meet any individual criteria of any member of this board, it gets voted down.
all right, I think,
We're in front of a camera. I can't put it any simpler to you.
okay, I've had my say.
Okay. Anything else from a board member?
You're looking at me like I always have something.
I can see the wheels turning.
I think, while John was talking, I had an understanding that with the grant agreement, it's an agreement with the town, so the town can't necessarily have an agreement with itself. Is that kind of it?
That's not necessarily true, because as I understand it, the town of Yarmouth does.
Okay.
And the town of Yarmouth, I think, is represented by the same council as the town of Howard. I'm not sure about that, but I think it is.
All the towns on the KP law.
There's different
You know,
opinions
what's
to meet
goose-
different
what's good for the
situations.
goose is not good for the gander.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so,
Either way,
I mean-
I'm gonna get out of the weeds now.
Thank you very much. Okay, anything, Kathy?
could we skip over this for a second and go to this so that Cindy doesn't have to stay too long?
She fallen asleep back there?
Yeah,
Okay,
because that's gonna be.
go ahead, you have the floor. I'm sorry.
I'm here to just show you guys what we finally came up with. So, this is the banner. This is what a lawn sign is, and that's what usually I'll do for different events and things. So this is the logo that we all came up with, and I just wanted to show it to you.
I like that.
And pass that along. And then I also did a banner so that I could show you what banners look like. So that, say you did this at maybe the fields or some location.
This is, I just did it at 2.5 by 4 feet. I didn't wanted the right side. So that's what the banner would look like. That looks great.
That's fantastic.
So, I mean, these are a less expensive way of going it, and it's getting it out there. Thanks, Cal. So this way, you're not spending thousands of dollars. I mean, look at all the list of all the projects. I printed them all out from the website. There's a ton of them. So really, it's a lot of money for permanent, white, pretty signs with whatever posts you want and everything. But this does the same kind of thing to get the visual logo out there so everyone sees it. So. There you go.
Very nice.
Okay, comments from the board. Kathy?
I love the logo. I think that the emphasis on the housing is something that we discussed at the last meeting that we all liked. I like the blue and the white. I think the size of the other things shows up enough on these sizes. I think the one thing that we would want to include is our statement about.
That's what I was thinking too. We need to finalize that,
Right.
and then we just add it. Like, we can squish down some of the
Statement.
portion of this money is funded by the town people of Harwich, or whatever we're gonna come up with.
And then
But
I
yep.
think what we would need to do as a committee is decide, you know, what place is appropriate for a banner, a sign, and if is it temporary, and then moving forward, once we get some of this recognition more permanent, and we like it, then there are some places that could have a more permanent kind of a signage, and that would be something like maybe at the trail kiosks or something on anything that, you know, we might have helped with some of the conservation lands and, you know, something like that. I think some people were worried that, like I know Ginny from the library mentioned that she was worried that a sign, people would get confused and think it was, if there was a permanent sign, that every single project that was happening at the library was supported by CPC, which is not necessarily the case. So there needs to be some sort of case specific, you know.
I think for something like that too, I think we talked about at one of the meetings, maybe doing a nice plaque, so that in the side, we could even do a plaque that says, this project, this project, this project were funded by CPC. So then there is recognition to CPC in the town, but also it's also somewhere in there that you can see it.
That's it.
Kelly?
So, my understanding is that this is the logo for us, and, which I did use this in, and thank you, Cindy, in a Facebook post this week, to, promote this meeting. So this with the Community Preservation Committee, makes sense for that. Whereas if we had this in the public talking about a Community Preservation Act project, then it should say Community Preservation Act project. So the language should change for that, and then it could say the language of your tax dollars at work. But yeah, I agree, as we've said previously, that I think the logo is great and a good start, and as we said, we'll see what the reception of the public is, if there's any comments at all, but it's a good start.
Kelly, thank you. Robert?
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I think it looks great.
John?
Yeah, I think it looks great. I don't have any additional comments.
Can we nail down the,
Verbiage?
yeah, Howard Community Preservation Committee?
I thought we had nailed it down.
We did.
I thought we did.
Yeah, but how are we gonna get to this?
I don't think
Just email it to me, David, and then I'll go back on to where we built this. Yeah.
Shrink it. Shrink the verbiage that's on there and
Yep.
add, do you have it, Kelly, what we talked about?
Yeah.
This project is funded in part, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we have the logo, then we can have that
And it'll look
language
different on
underneath.
this, on
Right.
that. So, yeah, so this,
Taxpayers.
yep,
So this, I would just take and then put, like, raise this up a little, and I know you can't hear me, or maybe you could. Creative. Take this, bring this up, and then on the bottom is where you would put.
Acknowledge, the most important part of it is acknowledgement to the
Absolutely.
taxpayers of the town.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for that, those public signs about the Community Preservation Act projects or funds, they don't need to necessarily say our committee,
Right.
but they can have that logo and.
And we can just take the word
Certain
committee off. It can just say Harwich Community Preservation. And then underneath it says, thank you to the taxpayers, whatever that says, and I can't remember.
Cindy, do you have a copy of that?
Yeah, on my computer. I'm going to leave those with you guys.
Okay, no, I mean Kelly's. that-
No, I'll just grab it from her.
Okay, would you send that to her, please?
Yes, I will absolutely send it.
you.
I will send it in.
Yeah,
a way that you can
just email me, the verbiage. You don't have to do anything pretty.
Okay. Catherine?
What's the average cost of producing a banner, producing?
I think both of those, I want to say both of those, and I actually did the express to get it here. It was like $170, just because I paid the extra $30 for the express. But it's not bad.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Because we had talked about allocating about $10,000 towards this particular project, right?
And we have to justify that allocation to the new finance director,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, and I mean, I would take a look at how many of those projects that we want to get lawn signs in front of, just to, especially now as we're gearing into where there are more people here, that we can just maybe say, okay, let's print 100 of the lawn signs and maybe 10 banners. So we scatter them around where projects are, and then we'll see what people say.
So if we don't have the word committee,
Yep.
which I understand, I don't think Harwich Community Preservation, we gotta have something else, because it doesn't necessarily speak to CPA.
You gotta identify, see, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta, you know, so it's either gotta be like Harwich Community Preservation Act, or
And I want to say that's the thing that was outside of the Brooks Academy. There's this little sign.
there's a little sign.
And I want to say that's what it says on it. And even the little trifold brochure that you have says that. So,
Yeah, so I think Harwich Community Preservation
act.
So Preservation Act on the same line,
Yep.
and then our statement about the use of, you know, the support of the taxpayers, CPA funds. Because, like, committee's not gonna,
Right, that's good for in here and what, yeah.
yeah. I like the blue and the white. It's attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yes, ma'am. Okay,
Have we heard from the chair, what he thinks? I missed that. What do you think?
in the very beginning, I liked the logo.
Okay, I was trying to listen to everybody.
Get-go.
Okay.
John, anything else?
Nothing.
Robert?
No.
Kathy?
No?
Kelly?
Nothing. Thank you very much, Cindy.
You're so
for all your
welcome.
Yeah.
Absolutely, thank you.
Absolutely. You're fine.
Outstanding
You're-
job.
You're quite welcome. I am going to just wait for a second to hear Kelly about the Facebook, because Sheena had a brief comment. So if, I mean, I don't like to ask to do anything, but Kathy did bring me up early. Can you just do the Facebook thing real quick? Because I want to go have dinner.
As a oh, boy. Okay. Kelly Barber, you have the floor,
Great.
with John's permission.
Absolutely.
Thank
Go
you.
for it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Cindy, for the logo. Cindy got the logo to me early this week. I was definitely behind on getting things moving, just personally outside of here. But I was able to, once I got that logo, I got a post together for Facebook. It did not necessarily go swim. But the fact is, you know, we're starting something new. I'm trying to get our presence up on Facebook. Cindy was very gracious to post and information on the Chamber of Commerce page. I shared on a few Facebook pages, and then Jenny from the library shared to the library page and beyond that. And so Jenny suggested that we revisit the idea of starting our own Facebook page. I know that we had comments previously about if there's commentary and messages that come in that that ends up being potentially public record, but she said that there's an option to turn off comments, but those posts can still get shared, and then those comments occur on those other pages. But that provides an opportunity for us to have a page, again, kind of navigating with Jenny on what our options are there, since it would be kind of associated with the town. If this is feasible, then we have a page that can be linked to by these other posts, because that was one of the issues, is that it couldn't necessarily link to, general contact information. And so the page could serve a better informative platform with like the CPC email address, the link to the website. We can have more posts on there even about like there's a CPC meeting coming up and here's a link to the agenda. And so I can explore that again with Jenny and see if that's a feasible option. And then from that page, which would be a bit more feasible, to just kind of share those posts and links with Jenny and Cindy for the Chamber of Commerce and the library, and kind of get out in the network that way. Any comments, Cindy?
And I'm not quite sure, but as long as a committee, and I don't know, can have a Facebook page, I don't see why it wouldn't be feasible, but I don't know, and that may be something that you have to find out from the town level, whether or not that you could.
Right.
If not, certainly like what we did this week, you designed the pretty little flyer, I can certainly share anything. I mean, what the chamber does is takes care of the community and getting the word out and making sure that, we're just continuing the good work for the town. So certainly, if there are things legality-wise, because it's a committee of the town, you may not be able to have one. And like the public comment, we all know social media is good, bad, or indifferent. That may be where you tread some water. Certainly, I can come on a regular basis, and if we have like a piece of this as the marketing piece, certainly as we go forward with doing signage, or if there's, the grant application process is starting, please remember, I can do a public announcement about that. That's not a problem at all. So that may be where you have to do it. I don't know. That's one piece that I'm not sure of.
Right. So if we can't do our own page, then we do have at least 2 venues
Yep.
to go to, and really appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
All set?
All set.
Kathy?
Yeah, so when you said that things didn't go swimmingly at the beginning, what are you referring to? Are you referring to the fact that there was no likes, or it wasn't looked at, or what in particular?
I more meant that things didn't get out the door immediately.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
nothing to do with the actual
No.
distribution by the library or chamber or anything like that?
I don't.
I think before we go diving into even looking at whether we should have our own page, that we try a number of posts for a series of months and get our feet wet in this whole thing first before we even think about having our own page.
And something that I know I do for the chamber and for different things that we do, and some of you may have seen it, and you may be laughing hysterically every time you do, but I do a lot of live videos for our things and other things that we're doing. Certainly, if we're going to hang some banners or we want to do some kind of a live video that, a couple of you are out with me and we're at one of the Brooks Field or the Bocce, whatever, we can do that. And I can say things like, I'm here with a couple of members of the Harwich CPC. Did you know that CPC does this? And so then we're educating. It's crazy. I try not to do it anymore myself. I have my daughter, who's my social media coordinator. She'll hold it because I got so excited watching people watching it and viewing it. So a lot of people do like to do the immediate. So if you guys are up for any of that, certainly there are a lot of creative ways. And like Kathy just said, instead of starting your own, let's use what we've already got going, and I'll just get a little kooky with y'all.
I think baby steps for us. Let's try to get regular postings about things that we do into these couple of venues as often as we can, or as much as we think would be good, and then see where we are in 3 months, and then 6 months, and then take it from there.
Sounds good to me.
All set, Kathy.
Yeah.
Robert? John? I've been waiting for
I
this.
know. Me too.
Let's see, how can I just totally frustrate whatever your expectations are? Because I'm
You
not
go-
sure what they are.
You go for it, sir.
Well, I just have a couple things to say. One is I support the idea of a Harwich CPC Facebook page. If it passes legal muster as far as public records go by turning off comments, I do think that having comments on, regardless of what the legalities are, it would be a mess anyway. We wouldn't want to see what the result is. So if that can happen, that's fine. So I have one question, which is in your description, you referred to your original post somehow getting posted on the Chamber of Commerce website, Facebook page, and the library Facebook page. But where was the original posting made? Since we're talking about maybe originating postings on a CPC Facebook page, we don't have that. Did you post it on a personal Facebook page, or how did that work?
I understand. So phrasing was poor on that. I did not post on an original page. I had sent the content to Cindy and separately to the library. So I sent an image and then a blurb.
Okay, great.
What did you just say?
He was asking if she used her personal Facebook thing to get this thing
In
started.
order to get it
Yeah,
forward?
She said she didn't.
It was
Okay.
unclear from what she said.
Okay.
Maybe that's in the weeds, but I'll go there anytime I have a chance. And my last question was, given these postings, are you aware of, and here's where I get lost because I'm not really a Facebook user, and so I don't have the Facebook jargon, but are you aware of how many hits there were on these postings? And are you aware of any specific people who were in the room this evening as a result of those postings? Aside from Ginny, who certainly was acutely
Robert, where
aware
do you
of this,
come
she
up with
probably
these
would have been
things?
anyway. What?
Well, I have answers.
Go ahead, have at it. Have at it.
The latter question, I do not know. The primary is, I took a look at all these different pages to see if they got any
Views.
interactions. An interaction would be like a click on it, like
Yeah.
a like or a comment. Who knows how many people actually saw it?
Oh. That's what I'm looking for.
But again, this got posted only within a couple days of this.
Sure.
And, but that would be my intention in the future, is to and get a sense of that, which could potentially even include, that would really be getting into it of like a poll of, why did you come tonight? Was it because of Facebook, or you just know about it from online, or?
Yeah.
I don't really want to get into that.
Sometimes that alienates people. I can speak for one to whom that applies.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So I can actually answer that too. Unfortunately, and this was only done a day ago when this happened, because this is when I got it. But the post had 2 likes and 1 share. It doesn't tell me who the share is, but yes, you can. I know you were one of the likes, so I actually only got 1 like. So, but,
Self-promotion is good.
Like I said.
Move on.
so yes, so this is the first time, so I don't think we can really judge this one. Certainly, we know after the conversation tonight, what you're looking to do and what we can do. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bob, sorry.
No, I just,
Go ahead, Robert, you got the floor.
two things. Norwood has one and Canton have their own Facebook pages. So it probably is legal, but.
Oh, good.
Who does?
Still,
Until someone challenges
yeah,
it.
Town of Norwood and the town
Norwood
of
Community
Canton.
Preservation
Okay.
Committee and the Canton Community Preservation Committee. Those are two I just happened to look up.
Thank you.
Kathy?
Yeah, you know, it might be great to have our own Facebook page, but you have to have a person who is going to manage
Right.
the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
Okay, and that means, you know, timely postings, it means, you know, gathering the information, and we don't have that right now.
I thought you volunteered the
No, I
last
did not
meeting.
volunteer, you know that I don't even do Facebook, so, I just think that we're getting ahead of ourselves.
So,
Kathy, I'm sorry, Kelly.
Honestly, being at least like relatively familiar with Facebook, the amount of work that it would be to manage a Facebook page and what I'm being asked to do already is pretty much the same, if not less.
That's
It's a-
still a job, though.
Yes,
It's, to Kathy's point, when you're not here, how does that get transmitted to the next group?
And it does need to be consistent. I mean, every day, myself or whoever I have doing it is on it. I mean, sorry, you guys are entertaining and I was listening honestly, but I was in the back on our Facebook seeing what our members had so I could get that out. And that's what you need to do. So if you're going to jump into social media, it's both feet in. It's not just, okay, let me stick my toe in, because it's not going to get you what you're looking to do. So I think if you start, like Kathy said, having things that you want posted out there, let's go from there.
John?
Kathy has, I mean, that is a legitimate point. I agree that there has to be a plan for this to work and not just be, you know, hit and run sort of thing. But I think that one thing we should be doing now is to resolve whatever legal question there is about whether we can do this or not. And rather than waiting until we decide we understand the whole process well enough, then start asking the legal questions. Let's resolve that question. Let's figure out how to resolve that question. You look like you already know how to resolve the question, Kelly, so.
Well, it was unsaid, but I had the full intent in this time period to figure that out.
Okay.
So I can,
All right.
I would suggest, based off of the collective suggestions of taking baby steps, maybe I take some time over the next 3 months to be working on all of that. If I have an update on the legal side of things next month, then I'll provide that. But if we are circulating posts, then I can give a status update on interactions and whatever we're getting in that regard too.
Just remember that the coalition will not give you a legal opinion. That's not what they do. So we can't just go to them and ask them,
Bob?
just for everybody's general knowledge. So,
I was saying with the town.
Yeah, I think it's more the town.
Cindy?
That's what I have. I'm all good if you guys don't have anything for me.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Just keep me posted if you do want me to come back.
Absolutely.
You know where I all am. And if you need your beach dump sticker, come see me.
Right.
This thing keeps telling me we have a meeting.
We know we're into it
I know, what is this thing?
significantly.
Yeah, today at 6.
Okay,
Where am I?
You're 2
Midwest?
hours late.
I don't
next
know.
thing, on the application, online application, John, you have the floor.
Okay, I just
Did I
want,
miss one?
Don't forget that.
Yes.
want to start by saying that question that you raised on application, they're different activities and require a different level of consistency, but it is an issue, and I believe it's just an issue that's going to have to be dealt with because this is.
You mean if who's gonna manage that?
There
part?
has to be some continuity, and I'm doing this now. I'm not going to be here forever.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm going away anytime soon, but I'm not going to be here.
Let's hope not, so.
And there are people who can do this. This is not like some special skill I have, other people can do the same thing. So, anyway, just
Yeah.
just starting with that, we have to think about that. So, I did get two test applications, and I think that's important. And partly I think it's important so the committee can see what the hard copy result looks like and consider that as part of the, decision about we're gonna go ahead with this. So I don't know what the pleasure of the committee is in terms of going through this. My suggestion is, but you guys tell me whether you wanna do this or not, is to go to last month's minutes, which Jan enumerated the issues that came up. We can go through those unless you all have looked at those and already decide they're okay. Because all of those things weren't done and won't be done because they're not possible at the moment. And the other thing would be to just step through the resulting, Bob's or Kathy's resulting application and talk about what's in there. And what I would like to see happen is a decision get made like now, or maybe at the latest in a couple of weeks, if that's when our next meeting is, but be made now. And I don't know how much time people want to spend doing this, but I'm pretty happy, unless there are specific errors or problems in any of this that people want to point out, I'm pretty happy with where it is now myself.
Okay, so we'll open it up to the board. Kelly?
I was pretty happy with the outcome. I looked over the PDF that got put out by Bob's application. I think my question is on the supplemental materials where you end up getting to a page where you need a town login. So I don't think I understood the solution for that.
I don't understand the question. I'm
There's
sorry.
a link to try to look at, I think, your draft budget, and when you try to click that, it goes to a page where you need a town login. So I wasn't able to view that.
So in the PDF, there are, there are URLs which go to the specific documents, and Bob filled out the whole application. He also uploaded 3 PDF files to go with it, and there are links at the bottom of that PDF. One goes to the PDF itself, if I remember right, and the other 3 go to the 3 documents he uploaded. You have to have town credentials to get those. That's not the only way that's a problem is people clicking on it, getting confused as a result, that when they click on it, they require a login. Those things are documents that are accessible to me because I have the credentials to log in, and I will do what I've done in the past several years, is collect all those things together into a single thing that gets posted online and that all the committee members have access to. Does that
Yes.
answer your question?
Yeah, I think I was getting confused of whether I was supposed to be able to view that
Yeah,
piece.
I can see how that's a little bit of confusion.
But as long as we have access to it at the end of the day, that's all I really cared about.
Yeah, the only thing I'm unsure about is, I know that I can't access other parts of the town website, like I can't go on and edit the Historic Commission's webpage or anything like that. I assume that people with login credentials to handle those parts of the websites also can't get onto CPC's thing. So I think I'm the only one at the moment who has access, except for Sarah, the IT, and there might be a couple other people who can get in there, but that's basically the way that is, and it's that way intentionally.
All set.
Also, Robert?
No, I just went through the experience, and it was very smooth, and I thought very straightforward. the biggest issue, which we've already talked about, is you can't really go back and look at what you submitted, like it was sent to me, but my attitude is that if you have to make an adjustment after you've submitted it, you just keep doing the supplementals.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can
worst
just-
case,
And and say this is a correction to the original application.
there are all kinds of fat finger accidents that can happen. Somebody just pushes the wrong button and they're halfway through and they didn't intend to hit submit, but they hit
Right.
submit. And for me, the best solution for that is for that person to start over. I'm not sure I would want to advertise that up front, but if somebody, calls or gets in touch and says, oh my God, I just submitted the thing and I forgot to fill that out, or I forgot to upload my documents, we can work that out on a case-by-case basis.
That just gave me the willies. I'm thinking of, I can't say it. So essentially, there's no way to return.
In the application process, you can get all the way up to seeing the draft, and you can go back and change
You
things.
can preview.
And you can do that over and over again. And Bob did that, and I've done that. You can get to the preview, right, it's not called a draft, it's called a preview. You can get to the preview, and there's, if I remember right, there's two buttons on the bottom. One is submit, and the other is back. And you hit the back button, and you just go backwards into the different pages of the application.
Okay, so that's something I'm familiar with. I understand.
You can do that over and over again.
But once you hit that submit button,
It's
and you
submitted,
catch something later,
and you decide you made a mistake, but is that really any different than somebody submitting a handwritten application to us that we get, and then they decide, whatever, this was wrong, or I left that piece of information
Okay.
out, whatever.
I got it.
And they can just, like Bob said, they can submit supplemental information. That's just gonna be available for whatever. I mean, it's set up as, use this for after the fact, but, we can tell people you can just submit something using that form.
Yeah, something you forgot, just add it.
Yeah. Kathy?
Yes, I did a test application and it was pretty easy. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. Although I didn't do the supplemental materials. That was a bridge too far for me.
That's simpler,
But-
it's
I
really
know.
a simpler thing.
I think that if we have addressed most of the questions or concerns that came up in the minutes, which I think that you did, John,
I did whatever I could do,
right,
yes.
that I think we should try it.
Absolutely.
I think we should move forward, post it on the website, this is the way we're gonna do it, let the administrator's office know that this is the way we're gonna do it, and try it out.
Simple. Is this the consensus of the board?
Absolutely.
Then go forward. We don't need a motion for
No,
this.
no, Kelly does have a question.
Oh, I missed that.
Something to say.
Sorry.
So I was
Vision.
going to support that
Oh.
suggestion, with the thought that the sooner that we get it up, if we do get any early applications, we may be able to
Tweak it out there.
identify some issues sooner.
Okay.
You have the board's blessing.
Thank you. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do then, which is, I'm gonna take off the draft label that's on every page. I'm gonna
Right.
get rid of that. Now the only way for me to get to that form, well, I sent you a link, but it's a hidden link. People can't. So I'm gonna put a link on the web page in a prominent way. I probably have to pay attention to some other things on the web page anyway, like announcing that all this year's articles were approved or whatever. So I will do that in the next week or two. I'm not gonna run home and do it tonight.
Okay.
But it will
It's
get
gonna
done.
be too late by the time we get out of here.
Well, then I should stop talking.
You've got your marching orders, sir.
Okay.
Okay, yes.
Once it's on, do you want me to email it to the past project managers? You know, announce. We usually say we have our application, now we have our application on. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
notify all
Yep.
the applicants, past applicants, that the applications are now available?
Sometimes it's solo, sometimes it's part of another thing. Like I emailed all the past ones about tonight.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so I think announcing that the application is now online is probably necessary, and it's cordial.
Oh, you want to be that, that's
So
for
John, when you have it, just give me
Will do. Okay. Okay, one thing I did forget to touch base with, Carol Ridley is no longer with us on the board. She's got other things that she's involved with. So I'd just like to thank Carol for her participation with the CPC board. It's greatly appreciated. Next meeting minutes agenda. I'm sorry, Kathy, you got it. All right, so Ms. Green has said that I have completely missed a particular item.
No, we missed it on purpose so we could move people.
Well, the chair missed a complete. All right, presentation of the product, updated status reports.
No, it's this one right here. Number 2, the option to have the CPA projects listed in one warrant article.
Oh, okay.
And that's a big discussion, so we might want to table it till the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Table it?
Yep.
Consensus of the board? We're done. Next meeting agenda, that's going to be the first thing on the agenda.
Okay.
From the board, anything else? Follow up on John? Do we need to?
Well,
Your impressions?
just put it on the agenda, and whenever the next meeting is, what Jan sent out, I think is the 13th?
13th?
July.
In July, on the 13th, is that correct? Yeah, so that's within the 2 weeks. I said I would get this done, so that'll just be a reason to make sure that it's done
Oh,
by
that's
then.
fine, it's only 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so that's fine. Just put it,
To see you all again.
put it on the agenda, and so it's there, and if there's nothing to say, then that'll make it easy.
Okay, done. Robert?
Nothing.
Kathy?
Nothing.
Will our new member be joining us?
I hope so. Apparently she's in the audience. Would you like to introduce yourself? You can come to the microphone.
Hi, my name is Marcy Vigneault, and I'm the property manager with Hetch, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody. I've been in Harwich for 30 years. I've lived in Harwich, brought my kids up in the Harwich schools, and so I have a lot to learn, and I hope I have a lot to offer as well as part of the CPC. So I will definitely be here at the next meeting. I don't know if anybody has questions for me.
You were appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Have you signed up to get sworn in?
I've already been sworn in. Emily sworn me in yesterday.
You?
You attended the
You
meeting
could have
tonight.
attended the meeting tonight as long as you were sworn in.
Oh, I didn't see my name there, so.
I couldn't make it
I'm happy that you're
I
here.
know, I'm kidding.
I'm happy you're here.
No, I am too, but it was a good introduction to learn what the CPC is all about, especially, you know, the part with the taxpayers, because I don't think people realize when they look at their property tax where that CPC is, and I learned that. So yeah, I mean, I definitely look forward to being at the next meeting, and, you know, any questions, you can reach out to me.
Are
Kathy?
you representing the Housing Authority or the Housing Committee?
Neither.
Authority. I'm on the
Housing
Housing
Authority.
Authority Board.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Anybody else want?
Just a question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Does that put us, now we're at 7? Is that where that puts us?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
We should have a full complement of 9, but at the moment you will make number 7.
Right, and you'll still have a quorum if there's only.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
5 or greater.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Great. Well, thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank
Do
you.
you have the date of our next meeting?
I do, right here, Thursday, July 13th.
There we go.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else?
I'm all set.
I'll entertain a motion.
To adjourn. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, folks.